Well, there you go. You've seen some of the reports about the congresses which either held or didn't hold in different states for the APC. Now we're zeroing in on what transpired in Rivers. Let's toss to Mark for that.
Yeah, some states were largely peaceful, but some states had their contention going for them. I think that there was a previous report on that one, chronicling what happened in Imo State. Rivers State was also one of the states that had quite a bit of controversy going on now. And then we have with us in the studio two gentlemen to talk about what happened, what transpired precisely. Joining us right now is the Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress in Rivers State, Mr. Chris Feinbone. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you, and good morning, viewers.
Good morning. We also have with us Senator Magnus Abe, who is a member of the All Progressives Congress and also an aspirant for the office of the governor of the state. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily. I think you've declared, haven't you?
I have, Barbara. Thank you, and good morning.
Good morning. So what transpired in Rivers State? From all that we saw, I think it was from Friday we started seeing signs of violence in the state. Some people had besieged the secretariat, the APC secretariat in the state, saying that their members were not allowed to buy forms. What transpired? Let's start with you, Senator Magnus Abe.
Well, Mark, first of all, what happened in Rivers State, in my opinion, was totally unnecessary. Because we had all known that there were issues in the party, and if we had made even the slightest of effort, we could easily have managed the situation and conducted our congresses peacefully. But it was deliberately designed to be that way. I will give you 4 main scenarios. First is that we had a South-South caucus meeting where it was agreed that when the committee comes from national, they must first of all address stakeholders. It was also agreed that before the committee would arrive, we, the stakeholders, regardless of our leaning or faction within the party, we should meet together and have an understanding of how the Congress is to be conducted. Now, none of this happened. There was no effort, no measure to build trust in the process from the beginning. What we're told was that everybody should go to their ward and follow the guidelines. When people asked about the committee, this is the first time I'm seeing the committee chairman on TV saying that there were no materials. If somebody is talking about materials, then it's another election. But in the same report, you saw people in Cross River talking about materials. You saw people in Imo talking about materials. You heard people all over the country talking about materials. So how do you conduct an election in which people don't know the process? Even if there are no materials, somebody who is a contestant in that election, I'm not, needs to understand how his own interest will be protected in the process. Nothing was done. Nobody saw the committee. That's one. Now they said everybody should follow the guidelines. The guidelines are that you should purchase your form, you should fill it. There are APC registered members who must sign the form for you, and that this must be done 24 hours before the elections. So since they kept insisting on guidelines, people were afraid that if they don't meet those guidelines, they'll say, okay, because you didn't sign 24 hours before, because you didn't do this, you didn't qualify for the election. So in that process, people spent almost the whole of Thursday night in different banks, struggling to get tellers and all that. Banks were working till very late. So early in the morning, they went to the secretariat, struggling to beat the deadline as stated in the guidelines. Nobody said anything to them. It was much later that my brother Chris Feinbone came on air around 3:30 to say they were waiting for the committee to come from Abuja before they would start selling the forms. Now, this is the same committee everybody had been asking about, and they said the committee was nobody's business. Nobody knew when they were coming. Nobody knew who they would meet when they come. Even members of the state working committee, his own colleagues, the deputy chairman, the state youth leader, the legal advisor, all of them held a press conference to say they were in the dark. So clearly there was an atmosphere of distrust that was deliberately built into the process. Mm-hmm. Now, after these people had been there from morning, nobody attended to them, till 4 o'clock, police now came.
That was on Friday?
On Friday, and opened fire on them. These are the people that are now being described as what created pandemonium. It was in that process that, you know, when everything is like that,
and open fire on them without provocation?
No provocation. They had been there since morning. Not a pin had been damaged. Nothing was wrong until the police came and opened fire on the instructions of what we don't know. Now, instead of coming to talk to these people to explain what was going on, that is what happened. And after that, they said forms were now sold and that congresses took place.
Mr. Feinborn, what's your account?
Yeah, I think what happened was that we had initially committed ourselves to running a transparent process, because the congresses will be a process, not just an event. And so ab initio, after the last expanded executive committee meeting of the state, we fell back and reiterated that position that we must not only be transparent, but be seen to be transparent. And so we now agreed that, look, we must involve the team coming from Abuja right from the very beginning of the process, so that they will serve as the other voice to whatever that will happen. So we, as at 2nd of May, through my usual intel channels, because just like the government in the state eavesdrops on us, we also eavesdrop on them. I've gotten information that a small section in the party was working with the government to destabilize our congresses. We looked at it, appraised it. We felt it didn't need a red flag, so we just left it. But 3 days to the Congress, a group called M30 went on air to say that the Right Honorable Minister for Transportation has come into town, and before he came into town, he collected all materials for the congresses, and he has taken those materials away. Was
it true?
It wasn't true. 3 days to the election. So we called ourselves again and said, look, this must be, the intelligence report we had that some people were working to destabilize this process would be true. And so from what we are hearing on air, we better double up our effort to show transparency in this whole thing. And if people could come up on air to begin to allege cutting away of materials or diverting material, then we better be careful. But in any case,
what were the steps that you were going to take to
the steps we were to take,
show transparency?
Nothing else we were to take than to let the officers from the national be part of the process from the word go. Because you might ask, why were forms not sold on Wednesday, Thursday? Because the forms were not, the national people will not be there then. So we now agree
did you know the members of the National Committee? Because Senator Abe said...
there's no way I would have known them from Port Harcourt. But we know that National has assigned a team of officers to come.